Hello, everyone. I just wanted to talk about silence for a little bit. Ironic, I know. But I read a couple books about silence a little while ago. One was The History of Silence, and it talked about solitary confinement in the United States and just the history of solitary confinement. And it also touched a lot on monks and how they dedicate a lot of their lives to silence. And another book was The Seven-Story Mountain by Thomas Merton. And that was all about his life becoming a monk and dedicating his life to monkhood, and how when he entered the monastery, he started living a silent life. And that didn't mean that he couldn't speak ever, but he wasn't allowed to speak to his brothers. He could only speak to people who came in from the outside world. And I know for myself, I tried living a silent life for a number of months a few years back, and it's quite difficult because you have people in your life who want to talk to you, and so dedicating your day-to-day life to the idea of silence is quite a strenuous thing when you're not in like a monastery or a dedicated space that encourages that silence. And of course, our day-to-day lives discourage silence. We have to talk to our coworkers, our family, our partners, our friends. We feel like we need to listen to media and social media and the news and the radio and music coming out. And of course, if we don't keep up with those things, we tend to feel like we're falling behind. And in a lot of ways, we are falling behind, because taking in the culture and the environment and the society is a big way that we engage and interact with each other. And so dedicating yourself to silence and not consuming the media, not consuming the culture, basically, almost feels like a rejection. And so you can feel disconnected from what's going on and the people you care about, because they have things they look into and watch and listen to, and you want to be part of that too. And so you want to consume your own things to either participate in what your friends and family are consuming, or maybe be able to give back in some way, like, hey, that's cool, the thing you're listening to or watching, and check out this thing that I'm listening to or watching. It's also really cool, and there's a give and take there. And so I can't actually say that I know how to live a life of silence outside of a monastery or some sort of sanctuary where you have a dedicated space that encourages that silence. But I think in the day-to-day, having some silence is very important. I know for myself, a kind of a walkthrough of my day is like, I get up, I watch some YouTube, I go to work, I might even watch some YouTube at work, and then I come home and I spend time with my partner, and then we watch something together, or we play some games together. And then all the while, I'm kind of thinking about projects that I'm working on, like videos or other things, like books that I'm trying to write. And so there's this constant yammer in the back of my brain on top of everything else. And then, of course, besides that, you have to be able to make casual conversation. And so casual conversation is sort of against the idea of silence, not speaking too much. But I think there must be a way of integrating silence into your life without having to join a monastery. Perhaps simply silencing your mind more than anything, and taking the time to just be quiet, feel this silent peace in the world without any noise going on, and then trying to bring that into your day, or maybe choosing at work to not listen to music or watch any videos on the side while you're working. Or while I'm working, rather, because that's something I do personally, and having that space for not having any extra noise coming in. But what would silence in the day-to-day even look like? Well, it could look like getting up in the morning a little bit early and having your coffee and just sitting in the quiet peacefulness of your apartment or your house or whatever, and not consuming anything while you're doing that, just sitting, not reading, not really even trying to think too much, and just enjoying the quiet of what's going on around you, which is probably not a whole lot. Maybe it could be focusing on just one thing at a time, and so your brain isn't too noisy with the yammer of this and that and the other thing. It's only noisy with the one dedicated task. I know something I did that worked really well for a little while is I simply didn't allow myself to listen to anything. So if I wanted to consume media, it would only be written, so I had to read everything. And sometimes I would watch videos with the sound off just to get the information, but not actually have any noise coming in. And actually, I found that was quite helpful. And then what I did was, just so I didn't cut anybody out or cut anybody off, if someone else wanted to watch something or listen to something, I would be totally 100% encouraging of that, and I would watch it with them and engage in that with them. But it wouldn't be me consuming that thing because I chose to and putting time and effort into thinking about it and consuming that. I would be only doing it to encourage communion and engagement with that other person because I cared about them. And this idea came from what I read in a book, I think it was Thomas Merton's Seven Storey Mountain, where the monks wouldn't eat any meat, but if they went to someone else's house for a dinner, they would eat meat there because they're not abstaining from eating meat for the sake of looking good. They're abstaining from eating meat for a dedication. And so they're not dedicating anyone else to that, only themselves. And so if someone else serves the meat, they will happily consume that meat. And I took this into the idea of consuming media. So I wasn't going to consume any media myself of my own volition. But if someone else wanted to do that with me, then I would be encouraging of that. And that would be my media consumption. So honestly, I don't really have a good answer for how to live a life of silence in the world while still participating in the culture and the media and friend groups and all of that. And if anybody else has ideas about this, how you can do that in a healthy way, I would love to hear it. But yeah, I think just pushing into that silence and quieting the mind is the biggest thing. And just taking the time to quiet the mind at some point throughout the day can really help calm the mind down and bring clarity to maybe what's important. And it's just a very particular type of peace, encouraging and engaging in the silent moments. You don't feel like, eventually you start feeling like you don't have to talk as much. You can listen more to other people. And you can say, hey, no, I've never heard that thing before, but I would love to hear about what you're listening to. And so anyways, if anybody has any thoughts or ideas on this idea of living kind of a silent life and encouraging a quiet mind, I would love to hear about it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.